Ghalib Shiraz Dhalla is an emerging author whose debut novel of literary fiction spans 3 continents. It is a story of a man whose repressed sexuality in Kenya finds expression and freedom in gay West Hollywood. But his past and background as an East Indian and Muslim clash with the new life he's found. Along the way, he finds pleasure by having random sex with men and escaping into the fantasies of legendary Hindi films and songs, which are a staple of Indian culture. Dhalla was born in Kenya, and like the protagonist in the book, he is of East Indian descent. In 1987, he moved to Los Angeles, where he currently lives. Dhalla was inspired to write at a very young age. His recent work has appeared in such magazines as Genre, Detour, and Details. An excerpt from his first recently published book was featured in an anthology that won the American Book Award, an honor also bestowed on such literary giants as Toni Morrison. The book is called Ode to Lata, and it's published by Really Great Books. Ghalib Dhalla, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me here, Bryan.
First of all, please explain the title of the book, Ode to Lata.
Ode to Lata is about an East Indian man who has grown up on a steady diet of Bollywood films. And if you're familiar with Bollywood films, an essential ingredient of a Bollywood film is the 8 to 10 songs that each production has. And these songs are almost never sung by the actors or actresses that are acting them out on stage, and recorded actually by playback singers, of whom Lata Mangeshkar is a legend. Since Ali has grown up listening to Lata Mangeshkar's music, he hears her in his mind and his soul, almost as if providing a soundtrack to his life and his journey.
I'd like to ask you, if you would, to please read an excerpt from the book that describes the protagonist Ali's love of Bollywood films, and if you could, please set the scene for us.
Okay. Well, the part I'm about to read is a part in which Ali is reflecting on his role, not only as a gay man, but as an East Indian, somebody that's grown up to Bollywood films. He has just been jilted by the man that he's obsessed with or thinks he's in love with, and so he is starting to take his direction from Bollywood here. Images from these Hindi films often flashed through my mind as I waited for Richard to satisfy himself with yet another trick and to return to me, spent but just a little more tender. I became Jaya Bachchan in Silsila, lamenting in song until tall and handsome Amitabh comes back to her from carousing with his mistress. Faces of actresses whose names I knew so well, scenes from movies, the titles of which are long forgotten, and those songs, yes, those filmy songs with the poignant lyrics that epitomize the suffering of love and that only Lata can sing. They are all there in their pomp and melodrama, directing me, reminding me, unfurling within me their systematic chaos. How can I help but heed their instinctual direction? It's a hopeless situation. Just like scores of Indian women who have learned to identify with the martyred heroines of Hindi film, I've also learned to relate to them instead of to the independent, free-spirited hero. It's not my role to realize the error of my ways and return to the one I love. Mine is to love unconditionally, shed the perfunctory tears and wait for dawn. It was in waiting patiently as he caroused, in having the opportunity to be there upon his return, to forgive him and take him back, that I had to find my meaning and validation. I don't burst out into song and dance, but I've come to believe in this melodrama, that good has to win. Patience is a virtue that always pays back, and that those who love the most and are willing to suffer for it always get the object of their affection to realize that they belong together. Penance is a prerequisite to romantic fulfillment. Life without the one you love quantified death. Men could leave, but if you had the misfortune of being a woman or relating to one, the respectable thing to do, the right thing to do, was staying. How else was love for an Indian homosexual who grew up in a gilded world of cinema, one who related to the psyche of his dramatic Indian mother, meant to be?
It does seem that Ali feels so much shame about himself, the fact that he is South Asian, and you go on to describe being born in the shadows of colonialism in Kenya. Explain what that was like for Ali growing up in Kenya, and then how it came back to haunt him.
I think for Ali and myself, growing up in Kenya meant accepting certain beliefs, certain social values, which didn't have to be questioned until Ali was plucked out of Kenya and put into Los Angeles. And it is difficult when you have to accept a new way of living, a new way of understanding, as it is for Ali, but it's necessary for his growth. In Kenya, there is a lot of segregation. The black people or the Africans are mostly the lowest rung on the ladder, and I don't mean to say that in any condescending way. It's just a fact because they are the multitude there. Then there are the Asians who are the merchant class. And then we have the Caucasians or the expatriates who even now continue to be on the top rung of the ladder. Once Ali is in Los Angeles, he is suddenly forced to question these values, and his first best friend, a character by the name of Dar in the book, forces him to confront those issues and come to terms with his racist sentiments, because he is somewhat racist, although he doesn't see it that way. And it's a necessary part of his growth to have to confront those things.
In the book, you talk about Ali's relationship with his mother. And his mother actually comes from Kenya to Los Angeles to visit him. And while she is there, Ali is forced to confront his issue of being gay with her.
Ali's mother is just like any other mother. She worries about him, about his search for true love in a city and a lifestyle that is legendary for loneliness and the emotional unavailability of its denizens. And I think ultimately the story of Ali and his mother is an example of unconditional love. I could not give her any of this. I knew that nothing I could do or say at that moment could prepare her for when she returned to Kenya, loaded with the knowledge of what she had only suspected, but now had been confirmed, that her son, her only child, was a homosexual. The world would always be there in places where I could not be, in community functions, dinner parties, family weddings. She would have to face them alone, armed only with the hope that perhaps her son had found a way to educe some happiness from a lifestyle punctuated by loneliness. She would have to accept the reality of the situation, that she was powerless against what she saw as this demon that had possessed her only child, the apple of her eye, wormed, rotting from some vile infection. Everything she had lived and worked for in the past 48 years was standing before her, flawed. I would not hold her. I would not console her. I had to be firm. She had to realize that her manipulations could not rescind anything. My coming out to her would not distance us, but, much to my own revelation, just might bridge us. I am doing this, Mother, so that we can return to that place where we can talk again, where, having cast hybrid expectations aside, we can go back to being real with each other.
Ghalib Dhalla, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ghalib Dhalla is the author of Ode to Lata, and it's published by Really Great Books. For This Way Out, I'm Bryan Goebel in San Francisco.